Welcome in, everyone. This is the Big Men on Campus podcast, sponsored by Sportsbook Review and SBRPicks.com. I am your host, Jeff Nady, the Big Men on Campus, here back with my co-host, Ryan D'Amico. Ryan, you know, I wondered if we would ever get back to this, and I'm glad we did. College football's back, and as many know, you and I are good friends. We kind of started out in this business. I started out in this business with you and I doing a podcast together. We lived together at the time. We were roommates, and we kind of took our, one day a week, and we kind of built up a podcast. It turned into doing it every day. And I wondered if we'd ever get back to it. It looks like you and I both chatted and thought, you know what, let's bring it back. Let's be on here. We're probably going to take it live weekly, but we figured we'll start it out kind of on a delayed, recorded version, see how it goes, and pick it back up maybe next week, every Tuesday here at 9 o'clock. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing real well, Jeff. Yeah, it's some things never change, I guess they say, right? Yeah, like you said, it's kind of something we've been talking about here recently over the last week or so, and it said why not go back to what we used to do and touch strictly on college football and something that has gave us success recently, or excuse me, previously, and why not keep it going here and jump into the 2017 season.
Yeah, and we hope, if you're subscribed, you caught some of our previews that we did before the season. Hope you enjoyed them. Hope you enjoy what we talk about here. We do talk about college football with an against the spread perspective. I'm a handicapper. I have videos on SBR. I do some daily things, and Ryan's one that bets as well. And again, we're friends. We've been friends for a long time, so we can kind of talk about things and give a decisive non-homer opinion. Though I know if we talk a little Michigan, Ryan, you might be a little homerish with that. But without further ado, let's get into it. Obviously, week one was fun. It was interesting. I think we learned a lot about some teams. I think there are some teams we didn't learn a ton about. And obviously, as the season goes on, we'll learn plenty more. Obviously, some of the bigger stories. Ryan, kind of, I'll throw it to you first. Who is a team you thought kind of surprised you, or you were blown away at what you saw, or positively or negatively?
Um, I think one to me that, well, first they jumped out to me in that opening slate of games, and then they followed it up again this past weekend. I look no further than South Florida. I mean, what exactly is this team doing? I mean, are they aware that they have a pretty easy schedule? They have a pretty easy path to get to a Big Six bowl game. And what are they
Right.
waiting around? What are they waiting around for?
Yeah, well, I think here's the problem with South Florida. And look, I'm not going to take any away from what Quentin Flowers is and what he's going to be. He's going to have a big year. I don't think anyone will dispute on that. But we're kind of seeing the changeover from Taggart to Charlie Strong. We're seeing a team that has
Yep.
taken some lumps early on. The good thing is they played Stony Brook and San Jose State, so they were able to escape. And again, for the record, they ended up pulling away in the second half against Stony Brook and were able to kind of get the job done there fairly easily. But Stony Brook wasn't easy. That game, or San Jose the first game.
The
Stony Brook,
first game, yeah.
yeah, Stony Brook in the second game wasn't easy. Yeah, I wonder myself. I mean, they're going to go 10, 10-2, 11-1, 12-0. I have them over 10 wins. It's one of my bigger plays of the year. And like you said, their schedule's easy, but I don't know what they've been doing. And other than Quentin Flowers, I'm a football. I would call myself an expert when it comes to college football, and I can't really say that I could identify a big play receiver that they have, a high level running back. They need to get everything fixed quick because their AAC schedule is coming up here, and they're going to have to play a lot better than they did because even this week, I mean, UConn is a pretty good defense team. They should be able to win the game, but it's on the road and again laying a big number. Ryan, good call there. One for me, I'll kind of go off the beaten path. There were a lot of great things that we saw in week one, and there were some things that we didn't see in week one that we were a little surprised by. One of which was the Texas Longhorns. I mean, how many times do we hear early on that with Tom Herman coming in, this team is going to challenge to win a Big 12 title, and they still may. Again, they did lose, though, in week one, and they lost fairly easily to a Maryland team that, look, I got to be honest, Ryan, I know you're a Michigan guy and you love DJ Durkin, but you couldn't expect that performance. I don't think that was Maryland was very good. I just think Texas really was poor in that game.
Yeah, I think it's just the same old song and dance with Texas. I mean, I remember having a conversation with you, Jeff, when the initial AP poll came out, and I asked, I said, why is this team ranked, albeit 23rd and at the bottom of the rankings? But I mean, this is a team that went 5-7 last year, was one of the worst defensive teams in the country. Now all of a sudden, oh, okay, you bring Tom Herman in here, all of a sudden that should just automatically turn around overnight. No, that's not going to happen. And I agree with you. I did not see that coming at all to Maryland. And if you would have told me before Saturday afternoon that Maryland would have went to Austin and hung 51 points on Texas, I'd have said you're crazy. There's no way in hell I would have seen that coming. But it just proves that Tom Herman has his work cut out for him down there.
A lot of big upsets over the weekend. Obviously, some of the FCS schools beating the FBS schools. You had Liberty beat Baylor, who, look, I got to tell you, Ryan, I think that was – look, we've seen a lot of upsets. You know, we've seen Michigan lose to App State. We've seen, some of those big upsets, in the past. But I got to tell you, I thought Baylor being beat by Liberty was one of the more disgusting upsets I've ever seen. It's amazing to me that as 34-point favorites, you lose outright to a team in Liberty who many don't even know they have a football program, Ryan. And this team went up and down the field. I'm not sure. I think I know Matt Rule knew what he was getting into there, but I don't think he knew or thought that they'd lose to Liberty in the first game of the weekend. Definitely interesting there. But Ryan, we continue to move on here. I'm Jeff. He's Ryan. If you're listening in, welcome in. We hope you enjoy the show. Feel free to like the show, comment on it, give us your opinion, whether you agree with us or you don't, whether you think I'm fat, you think Ryan's ugly, you don't like his haircut. You think my walls are bare and boring, comment on it. We don't give a shit. Just come here, have some fun, talk college football. And like I said, Ryan, we're probably going to take this live next week, which I'm pretty much looking forward to. I do live shows every day with SBR, so for me, it's not a problem. But I feel like let's take it live, an hour a night and, not a night, an hour a week, and kind of put our own little spin on it. But let's jump into week 2. We'll obviously keep track here. And if you want to keep track at home, feel free again. No one's asking you to bet these picks. These plays are for entertainment only. If you want my college football premium picks, you can get in touch with me, and I can get you in touch with those. But, again, these are strictly for entertainment only. No one's holding a gun to your head. We will try to give you the best picks possible, though. Ryan, let's jump into it. Week 2, first game on the card. This one goes Friday night. There is a Thursday night game, but it is an added game, and no one cares about that game probably. And there's no line for it. So we'll get into the first one on the card, game number 301, 302. You got the Ohio Bobcats visiting the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue laying 4.5 over under 57. If you're interested in a money line play, Purdue at 185, Ohio at 165. This game is on national TV at Fox Sports 1 at 8 o'clock on Friday. Ryan, big story. A lot of people talked over the weekend on my own podcast, on my own show, 12:30 every day, the Right Side of Campus. We had a lot of people talking about Purdue this week, and they look good. They almost and it's funny because they didn't even win a game, but they almost beat Louisville, a Louisville team led by Lamar Jackson. And I got to give it to Purdue. They looked good, even without their best player, Markel Jones, who's been sidelined with an injury. They kind of went dual quarterbacks. They put in David Blau, their normal quarterback. They also had Elijah Sindelar running the ball as well. So they had a kind of a dual threat there at the quarterback position. Moved the football, scored 28 points. Were kind of impressive. But again, we're talking about Purdue. We're not necessarily talking about them winning games. We're just talking about they didn't lose by a lot, which is impressive. I mean, Jeff Brom coming in there, I'm sure he's obviously going to put a little bit of a charge into that offense. But, this team is 3-10 over the last 13 against the spread at home. Ohio's covered 9 of 11 as an underdog. And, Ryan, as you know, I'm a big MAC guy. I enjoy this conference. I like Frank Solich as a coach, and you look at what Ohio did. They beat Hampton 59-0. So, again, you beat the Pirates, big deal. MEAC, again, though, as we saw, Ryan, this week, it's not easy to beat a MEAC team. Ask UNLV that. They lost to the Howard Bison. So you don't take those for granted anymore. I just think this is something where I'm not sure I'm ready to lay points for Purdue. Am I impressed with what they did in week 1? Sure. But I think Ohio used a live dog. They're a team who, if you look at the box score, starters didn't play too deep into this game. Their quarterback, Quentin Maxwell, was 7 for 9 for 100 yards and a touchdown. It basically was a preseason game for him. Ryan, he came in for a couple series, and had a seat on the bench for a while. It wasn't like they had to extend a lot of energy in this game. They're ready to go against Purdue, I think, in this game. And I know it's on the road, but I just like Ohio's attack here. Only 7 first downs for Hampton in that game. Obviously, it's a little different competition here, but I'm willing to think this one comes down to the wire. I'm going to grab the points here with the MAC team. I like what they do defensively. I think they have 2 of the best linebackers in the MAC on their team, and Chad Brown and Quentin Poling. I just think Purdue, a little bit of an overreaction here. I'm going to go with the Bobcats here, getting 4.5. Wouldn't be surprised to see them win the game outright. Any opinion here on this game, Ryan?
Yeah, I actually really like Ohio in this game. I think people are really overreacting big time to what Purdue did Saturday night against Louisville, and you tip your hat to them. But at the same time, let's look. Louisville did everything in their power. I mean, everything to hand Purdue that game and say, "Here, keep it close." And why Purdue couldn't take advantage of it. Ultimately, couldn't win the game. But I mean, Louisville kept Purdue in that game more so than Purdue kept themselves in that game. And you only have to look as far as the defensive side of the ball, Jeff. I mean, this Purdue team still did give up over 500 yards to Louisville and to Lamar Jackson. So I don't feel that comfortable in Purdue. I know it's on the road, but again, it is a Purdue, which it's not like one of the upper echelon Big Ten stadiums. You're not going to Michigan. You're not going to Penn State, a place like that holds over 100,000 people. You're going to Purdue. And a team in Ohio where you look at traditionally these upper MAC teams, usually these kind of games aren't too big for them. That's kind of something we've seen over the last handful of seasons, that these trips to these kind of middling to lower tier Power 5 teams, it's not too big for them. These kids, they know what to expect. It's business. So I think they go in there, and I think you're right. I think they are a live dog, and I would not be surprised if they did knock off Purdue. It's nice to see a team like Ohio that didn't struggle with an inferior opponent like so many teams did this weekend. So I think they only allowed like 108 total yards. That's astounding to me.
I got to tell you, Ron, I think this team has a real opportunity early in the season to really run the table. I mean, I think up until November 8th, I think they can win every game on their schedule. They are lucky this year to have a really good schedule. You look at early on with Ohio, like we said, beat Hampton. They got to go to Purdue. They got a Kansas team who's better, but they should beat them. They get Eastern Michigan, UMass, Central Michigan, Bowling Green, Kent State. And then they get Miami of Ohio and Toledo, which are 2 tough games. But overall, really favorable schedule. I do like your point you made about them kind of being prepared here. They're a team that, in the MAC, I don't think you're ever scared to play a team. You look at last year, I mean, Ohio played Tennessee really close to the vest. They were they had the opportunity to win that game late, did go to Kansas, beat them by 16. So they're beating higher level opponents. You look at also in the MAC title game, we're right there with a undefeated Western Michigan team as well. So I don't think this is going to be a big stage for them. I like the point you also made about Purdue. This team still has defensive problems. They gave up over 500 yards, and look, Louisville had 3 turnovers in that game. That's going to keep anyone in the game. I do think I agree 100%. It's more about what Louisville didn't do over what Purdue did do. So for me, I'm going to go with the underdog here. I'm going to take the live dog in Ohio. Ryan, why don't we go to one of your games? And again, we'll go through 3 or 4 games that we like personally, games that we're going to move on. And then we'll go into kind of just like a rapid fire at the end. Ryan, hit us with your first game.
Yeah, look, briefly, we don't have to spend too much time on it, but I think, and this is not me being a homer, and when I throw out some of these numbers, you'll kind of see why. I think Michigan absolutely hammers Cincinnati. I mean, look,
game number 321, 322.
Yes.
Michigan land 34, over under at 49.5. Did have a little bit of early movement here. Lined open 30. It's hanged around 34, 34.5. Did hit 35 at one point earlier today, but it's been back down to 34. What do you got on this game, Ryan?
Yeah, look, if you listen, if you're a longtime listener of us and you listen to our podcast a year or so ago, a little over a year ago, you know I'm a Big Ten guy. That's kind of where I make my hay and where I focus most of my attention. So I do have a couple Big Ten games here that we'll talk about. And with Michigan, look, obviously you saw what they did defensively to Florida on Saturday. I mean, absolutely suffocating. Didn't let that Florida offense get any traction. 3 points on the first drive. If it's not for a personal foul penalty on that drive that puts them in field goal range, they probably don't even score at all offensively. So they don't even get over 200 yards of total offense, this Florida. So Michigan's riding high right now defensively after replacing all those quote-unquote starters that I told you guys on the late night on campus a few weeks ago wouldn't make that big of a difference. Now it's the home opener. They come back home. They're feeling good after a win. And they got a Cincinnati team coming in here who this is not the same Cincinnati team that we've been seeing. You're kind of used to with, Gunnar Kiel, the air raid offense, just hanging 49, into the 50s week after week. It's not that team anymore. This team didn't get over 250 yards last week against Austin Peay at home, Jeff. That was a one-score game late in the fourth quarter. If not for a late touchdown at the end, that's a one-possession game final. So now they have to go in, and the running back's already talking shit. I can't believe it after all the smack talk Florida was doing. Now Cincinnati's running back wants to talk. I'll never understand these kids. I don't know how Cincinnati scores. If they do score, you give them 3 or a touchdown. And I think this is a get-right game for Michigan's offense. I think this is a beautiful situation for them to kind of, I'm sure all week they're going to be sick of hearing about how the offense was the issue last week, not the defense. I think they changed that. I think Wilton Speight has a nice game, gets the ball to the big-time playmakers on the perimeter. And I look for Michigan to win this game anywhere like 52-7, somewhere around there. I think they're going to really click on all cylinders on all sides of the football. And I think it's a pretty easy cover for Michigan here.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what Cincinnati did week 1. I mean, they played not only a team in Austin Peay, but a team in Austin Peay who, I don't know if anyone knows this, was 0-11 last year. And only 2 of their losses were by 14 or more. I mean, they got crushed last year. 14 or less, I'm sorry. Got crushed last year. Every game was seemingly 51-17 or 45. I mean, they're just terrible. You're right. Luke Fickell has his hands full here with this team. He'll get right with them. He'll get some recruits in there. But you look at overall, I mean, they were out-yarded by Austin Peay. Austin Peay had 37 minutes of possession to their 22. And if not for 2 Austin Peay turnovers, who knows how that game goes, Ryan?
Yep.
I think you're dead on the money here. For me, I'd actually look more towards the over in this game. I think at 49.5, that's a little low. I wouldn't be surprised if this one is, 42-10 or 46-7 or something. I think this gets up at over 49.5. This one is basically saying that Cincinnati's not going to score many points. I do agree with you. I think the offense will get right. The concern for me is, though, can they get right? Are they good enough? I know their run game's really good, and Wilton Speight struggled. He's going to have to be better. They shouldn't have any problem this week against the Bearcats here. You might have something with the this could be honestly 38-7, and you might just miss out on a cover or a total here. But I think you're right. I think this is 51-10 or something like that. If I'm correct, Ryan, you're going to this game, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be there. We're heading out Friday morning. Me and a bunch of family members, we're heading out, and we will be here. We'll be in the big house for my second year in a row.
Great.
Out there.
I'm hoping you're going to bet on this game then. Is that correct?
Most likely. I bet on – it's funny. So I went last year to the Penn State game, and if I remember correctly, Michigan was laying somewhere around 3 touchdowns, somewhere around 21.
I think 21.
And it fell below 21, like 2 hours before kickoff. It was a 3:30 start. So I bet it. I was like, if that's below 3 touchdowns, I'm betting it. I'm not even thinking about it. I bet it. Obviously, everyone knows the story. They win 49-10. So I feel like I have to bet this game.
Yeah, I do think, and I remember, if I can remember correctly, I think you bet pretty big on it, if I can remember. So, sometimes you got to go with your instincts. And I got to tell you, I think with all the chirping and that kind of thing, I think you might be onto something here. Ryan going to go with Michigan minus 34 against the Bearcats of Cincinnati. Next game for me, Ryan, I'm going to take a look at a total here. Totals are something that I like to kind of look at and get involved with. I just think, I've always kind of keyed in and been good with them. So I'm going to go back to the well here, and I'm going to kind of go with something that made sense to me. I'm going to stick with another Friday game. I'm going to go to game number 3. What do we got? 303, 304. I'm going to go over 66 here in the South Alabama Oklahoma State game. Oklahoma State laying 28 in this one. They're being bet up, open 25.5. It's been bet up to 28. Total's been bet up a little bit as well. And I think if you like the total here, you definitely want to move on it sooner than later. As many know, first couple weeks of college football, the totals move, numbers move like crazy. And this one's really simple. I mean, did you watch Oklahoma State play Tulsa over the weekend? Because I did, and I saw them score a ton of points. Their offense was – honestly, Ryan, to me, I thought this was the best offensive performance of the weekend. No?
Yeah, you probably would. I mean, yeah, Christ, they hung almost 60 up on Tulsa. And
I mean,
you look no further than the first drive, Jeff. They go right down the field and score.
Yeah, it was just – and it's like we go back to the Art Briles days and the Trevon Boykin days at TCU, just moving the ball up with really no pushback. I mean, I remember when Art Briles was at Baylor and they had Seth Russell and a couple of those.
Cannon. And
Katie Cannon and Corey Coleman. And, I mean, they just moved the ball up and down the field and like nothing. And I think you're going to see that this year at Oak State. I think they're a real candidate to win the whole thing. I think they're a team with Mason Rudolph that he's a Heisman candidate, if you ask me. James Washington, to me, is probably top 3 best receiver in football. Their offense is just humming. And you look at what South Alabama did over the weekend. They faced Ole Miss, another team who I'm very high on offensively. I really like Ole Miss. I like Shea Patterson a lot. And they dropped 47 on South Alabama. I don't see any reason why Oak State can't get into the 50s here, Ryan. And, if they can get, let's say, 55, I'm not good with math, but that would mean we'd only need about 10 to 14 points from South Alabama. I think they're capable. If we saw anything from Oak State, it was that they did struggle a little bit on the defensive end to get stops considerably, did give up 24 points to a quarterback in Chad President who had never played a game at this level. So I do think Dallas Davis, the South Alabama quarterback, will have a little success. They did put up 27 points last week. I don't know if they'll do that this week, but I do think they're good for 10 to 17 points here. I think that's going to be enough to get us up and over this total. I think this one will be pretty well paced. South Alabama shouldn't have much success. They give up 531 yards to the Rebels. Don't see any reason they don't do the same here. I have this one at like 55-17, something like that. I think they win and cover. I would consider laying the number as well, but I think the better play here is, Ryan, going to be on the over 66.
Yeah, you mentioned you like betting over unders and totals. I on the other hand, historically has not been my thing for whatever reason. Just kind of lack of success and just don't have the feel that a lot of other bettors out there do with totals. But looking at this one, Jeff, yeah, if I were to pick a side, definitely would go in that direction. I mean, this is a Oklahoma State team that look, everyone expected them to be good offensively. That held serve week 1. No reason it shouldn't hold serve week 2 against South Alabama, a team that gave up 47 points to Ole Miss. But I think the most important thing we have to look at here is a South Alabama team that was able to score 27 points on an SEC defense. I mean, and it's not a secret that Oklahoma State isn't one of the best defensive teams in the country. I mean, they play in the Big 12, a conference that doesn't play defense. So, I think South Alabama will definitely score their share. And barring some sort of, just absolute ludicrous situation, Oklahoma State should have no problem scoring either. I mean, if Ole Miss can almost crack 50, there's no reason we shouldn't almost see a repeat effort of last week where Oklahoma State's flirting with 60 again. I mean, this team, like you said, they're just humming, and there's no reason why they shouldn't get to it. I don't see anything that points to me that this game shouldn't go over. I mean, maybe the only thing you worry about maybe is if, I'm going off the reservation here, but maybe that hurricane that's coming up, if it catches the coast and goes up past Florida, and maybe they get some rain there in Alabama. I'm not sure. So we'll see. But yeah, I absolutely like the over if I was to bet a side here for sure.
Yeah, I think from what I've read and understand here in this hurricane, this one I don't think it's going to make landfall. If it makes landfall till like Saturday night or Sunday,
okay.
So I think we'll be okay with that. But yeah, good. I mean, you mentioned South Alabama being able to put points on the board. Dallas Davis, their quarterback, led the Sun Belt in passing yards last year at almost 270 a game. So this team can move the football. I don't think they're going to have trouble scoring points here. I just think this total's a little too low. I thought we'd see it more into the 70s, but I'll go over 66 here. We should see another high-level performance from the Cowboys. Ryan, let's go with your second pick.
Yeah, I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to go with another Big Ten game here. I'm going to actually look at, let me give you guys the number here, 341, 342, Indiana, the Hoosiers, laying 2.5 at Virginia. So, obviously, everyone kind of knows Indiana. Look, valiant effort against Ohio State opening night on Thursday last week. We're winning into the third quarter, and then all of a sudden, the wheels fell off, and Ohio State was, I guess they just figured they were done messing around, and a couple big plays here and there, and they pull away. That's fine. I like what I saw from Indiana, though. And you and I talked in the offseason, and we thought Indiana could be a team that takes a step forward this year. And they're kind of trending in that direction. The defense is better than what it's been in years past. Usually that's a team that's just going to go score for score with you. Look, giving up 49 points to Ohio State isn't the end of the world. Ohio State's going to score points on a lot of people. But against a team in Virginia now this weekend, I think the defense gets back to normal here. And let's look at Virginia. This is a team that did win their opening game, but albeit it was against William & Mary, and it wasn't a quote unquote blowout like a Power 5 team probably should have against a team like William & Mary. They win 28-10 at home. But I think Indiana, that's the side I'm looking at, is Indiana laying under a field goal. If that stays under a field goal, I love this game. So -2.5, I'm definitely taking Indiana. Look, they have an NFL quarterback, and he's going to get drafted. They have an NFL quarterback. I love what I saw from the wide receivers. I would really like if they could get some sort of running game going. I know they couldn't get much going against Ohio State. That's kind of predictable, though, with the defensive line, the front seven that Ohio State has. I get that. They had success throwing the ball. They stuck with that. But I think they're going to score on William & Mary. I think, offensively that they're going to kind of get back to what they do and spread the ball around and, try to run some up-tempo and get ahead of William & Mary early and make it difficult for William & Mary to kind of come back on them. So, I like Indiana here. I'm going to lay anything under a field goal here. Line is currently -2.5. So I'm going to take the Hoosiers here. I like Indiana going forward this year, and I'm going to lay it with them on Saturday.
Yeah, I like what I saw to Richard Legault. I thought defensively they held their own, at least in the first half, which was pretty impressive. Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't understand why Bronco Mendenhall went to Virginia. I guess I do, money, but other than that, I think that the one thing here that I would be, maybe a little numb on is, let's be real. First game against William & Mary doesn't mean much, but this is the first real meaningful game in Charlottesville. Obviously, we know what happened there. And I know maybe I'm reading into it a little bit. I do have some feeling that this team will play a little bit harder this year.
Sure.
But again, I do like what I saw out of Indiana. I think you're right with Lego, Simi Cobbs, and some of their receivers there are high-level players. I just think they're a better team than Virginia here. They should be able to go and get the job done. I think the spread's a little low, so I'm going to agree with you here. So Ryan, first pick, Michigan -34, also likes the Indiana Hoosiers -2.5 against the Cavaliers of Virginia. Ryan, third pick for me, I'm going to go to game number 153, 154. I'm going to go with another total. I'm going to go over 63, Hawaii and UCLA. This is kind of an odd total. It's actually been bet down to 63, which not sure I understand. I don't know if anyone's watched it, but Hawaii's moved the football at will, really, putting up 40 points, 38 and 41 points in their first two games, obviously against more inferior opponents. But I don't know if anyone saw either, but UCLA didn't exactly stop anyone either Sunday night. I mean, they were carved up and down the field by Texas A&M and a quarterback in before he got injured that he was playing his first game. I don't think Drew Brown in this Rainbow Warrior offense who have much problem moving the football. Look, are they going to score 40 points? Probably not, but I do think they're good for the mid or high 20s. And I think UCLA, I don't know if anyone watched Hawaii, but they don't stop anyone either. Josh Rosen threw for 491 yards last week. I think 4 or 5 touchdowns. He should absolutely dominate UCLA on offense. And Ryan, I just don't think we see a lot of stops here. Why is this line only 63? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Hawaii's had in the first 2 games 272 passing yards. Again, they were to UMass and Western Carolina, but UCLA didn't really stop anyone either. I don't see any reason they will here.
I guess they're just looking at the drop off, I guess, in talent between a team like Texas A&M with the athletes that they have versus a team in Hawaii where, like you said, they're doing it against inferior opponents. But yeah, look, if you follow me on Twitter, if you know anything about me, I cannot stand UCLA. I cannot stand Jim Mora Jr. I think it's hilarious he still has a job. I think that comeback on Saturday was just kind of prolonging the inevitable. Eventually, I believe he will get fired. I predicted he would get fired at the end of the season. I still stick to that. What a luck box game that was on Saturday. That's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Let's not forget, like Jeff said, they did give up 44 points in that ball game. Okay? Defensively, they seem to be a little lost. Offensively, look, Josh Rosen, he'll do his thing. They should be able to score some points. That total's telling you that the lines makers think that Hawaii is only going to score. I mean, if you bank on UCLA getting into the 40s, you're only banking on high 40s or so. You're banking on what? Hawaii only scoring what? 20 points?
Yeah, here's where I'm kind of like numb to that. I mean, and I know this isn't a great way of looking at it, but they do return a lot of players, so I'm going to look at it. Last year, the Warriors, gave up a ton of points. Cal scored 51, Michigan 63, UNLV 41, San Diego State 55, Boise State 52. They're giving up. I wouldn't be surprised if they give up 40 to 50 points here. I'm just kind of looking at. I don't think. I don't know if you know, Ryan, but Hawaii's offense is pretty good. They're able to move the football. I don't think UCLA is going to totally shut them down in this game. I don't think this is a 38-17 type of game. I think it will push. I think it will get up into the higher 60s. I think it's like a 45-20 type of game, 48-24, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see UCLA get into the 50s. And in turn, I don't really need the Warriors to do too much, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally hear you, and that's kind of where our head is at, and is banking on Hawaii at least getting into the 20s, like you said, which would be fantastic. And look, and if this game gets away, as a lot of people probably expect it to, you bank on a touchdown or two late as well, where they kind of pull off the dogs a little bit. They got the second stringers in there, so you get a couple points that way. So yeah, man, I'm on board with you with the over for sure. It's definitely kind of a head scratching number, definitely.
Yeah, another thing I like about UCLA is they don't run the ball ever. So it's like, they just kind of abandon the run, and like you said, Jim Mora is kind of. He doesn't do anything right, seemingly. So, I think we see kind of an upper tempo game. UCLA should be able to kind of do what they want offensively here. That's kind of what they normally do. Ryan, hit us with your third pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at. It's funny. We're gonna look at another Big Ten game. I think this is just basically a game that a lot of people probably would want us to talk about, and that's the big game Saturday night down in over in Ohio. Ohio State hosting Oklahoma. That is game 383, 384 for everyone out there. Ohio State currently laying 7.5. This game has really been bet up 2 full points. Opened at 5.5. Now it's crossed 7. So you're looking at 7.5 for the Buckeyes here. Look, this is the second matchup of the home and home that these guys had. Ohio State went into Norman last year and absolutely just throttled Oklahoma, one of their 2 losses on the year. Oklahoma, actually, a lot of people probably don't realize it, they actually have the longest winning streak in the country currently right now. So I like the way they're playing. I like the way Baker Mayfield's playing. A lot of people, say, "Wow, they lost so much talent to the draft." But look, at the same time, this still is Oklahoma. They still do recruit well. And look, I like what they did, albeit against UTEP. I like the way Baker Mayfield played on Saturday. He had one incompletion. I believe he was 19 of 20 from the field. Like the way he's playing. And at the same time, I think this catches Ohio State at kind of a good time if you're Oklahoma. Look, we saw them with some growing pains week 1 against Indiana. Not saying it's going to be that bad, okay? Not saying it's going to be that bad. But the offense is still trying to find itself, okay? These wide receivers are still trying to find themselves, still trying to find someone to make a play. Okay, J.K. Dobbins had a great game. Not taking that away from him. Fantastic. JT Barrett's still showing us that he struggles to throw the ball down the field unless his wide receivers are wide open. I'm inclined here to take the points with Oklahoma, especially if it's over a touchdown. If it's over a touchdown, I'm taking the points, okay? So at 7.5, I'm taking Oklahoma going into here off of some revenge. Look, they have high goals this year. Where they moved up in the rankings now, if they can knock off a team like Ohio State, boy, does that really go a long way in possibly finally getting a Big 12 team into the college football playoff. I mean, you have a win against Ohio State on your resume, you're set going forward the rest of the season. So I'm not even asking them to win the ball game. I'm just asking them to go in there and cover the 7. Basically, for what I've seen from Baker Mayfield the last couple of years, and then on Saturday, and just Ohio State to me, I know they pulled away in the second half, Jeff, but I mean we saw it kind of late last year and then into the game on Thursday night. This team still just has that like uneasy feeling, and it's not me being a hater. I've heard a lot of people talk about this and throwing some stats out there and whatnot. I mean, they probably should have lost to Michigan. They get shut out by Clemson in their bowl game, and then they go into Indiana and struggle for almost 3 quarters. So it'll be interesting to see what Ohio State team shows up. Still breaking in a new offensive coordinator. Look, the defense is good. At least the defensive line is. Cornerbacks worried me a little bit in that opening game before they, Schiano kind of went to his zone and realized that they couldn't man up on the outside. So it's going to be interesting to see what they give us. But I'm going to take anything over a touchdown here with the points. I'm interested to see what you have to say in this marquee matchup.
Yeah, you can actually get 7.5. It's still out there, so we'll go for that. Sake of the show.
Right.
I got to tell you, I'm going to give you one better. I think they can win this football game, to be honest.
Sure.
I agree with you. I thought what they did the second half, Ohio State, I thought it was impressive. I'm not gonna say anything different. And look, I know he threw 65 times, but look, Lego threw for a ton of yards. Again, that was something you have to look at in this game that you didn't have last year, or you did have last year, you don't this year, is Malik Hooker, Gary and Conley, all those kids that they had last year that they don't have this year. And I know Jordan Parker going out for Oklahoma hurts. That's going to hurt this team in the secondary. They are a little young up front, but I think overall, Baker Mayfield, I don't see any reason he doesn't kind of put it on Oklahoma State or Ohio State. They're in revenge here. JT Barrett, like you said, I mean, he was kind of uneasy in the first game, especially in the first half. And
unless his receiver, Jeff, and this is not me being a hater. I've seen it for the duration of his career. Look, if there's anyone that watches Ohio State more than me that's not Ohio State fan, I'd like to meet him, because when they're on, I zero in on that team. They're Michigan's biggest rival. Unless his receivers are wide open, he struggles to push the ball downfield. That hasn't changed. I don't think it's going to change the rest of the year. So it's going to be interesting to see how those young receivers get open in this football game.
And then you look at Baker Mayfield, who, on the other hand, 19 for 20. He was extremely efficient. And you look at his average per catch, 16 and a half yards per play. I mean,
right.
He has the total opposite. He's really good at throwing the football downfield. I think overall they're going to have to find a way to run the ball a little bit better. They did have 3 rushers over 50 yards, but they didn't really run the ball too often. And UTEP is obviously a different story. But Mark Andrews had a big game. Jeff Bidet had a big game as well. I like Oklahoma. I think, are they as good as, to me, Oklahoma State? I don't know. They're going to battle it out. But
I don't think so.
I think you don't think what you don't think what.
I like Oklahoma State more.
Yeah, no, I agree. I said I think they're going to win the Big 12, and I think ultimately
Agreed.
are going to be there in the Final Four.
Right.
Honestly, but Oklahoma, it hurts losing Jordan Park. I mean, he's one of your better corners. You still have Stephen Parker, you still have Jordan Thomas, but losing him hurts, and they're going to have to find a way to stop the run because they do have a kind of a young front seven. If they can kind of bottle up Dobbins and company, they're going to be live to win this game. And don't forget last year as well. They went into they went in there and really kind of took it to Oklahoma. But I think you're getting them at a good time. You're getting them at a team who did lose so much over the offseason. And to compare Oklahoma and Indiana are a little bit if they play that way against Oklahoma, they're going to run the fuck out.
Exactly.
In the first half. So for me, I'm going to agree with you here. I like Oklahoma State. Don't be surprised to see them win this football game. I think they hang around to the end, and we'll be a live dog there at the end. I love Baker Mayfield. That's my guy. I have him to win the Heisman as well, 9-1. So
it's funny, Jeff. I actually remember in 2014. It was one of the opening games of the college football season, and Texas Tech was playing. I can't remember who they were playing at the time. It's not important. And Baker Mayfield started as a walk-on freshman with Cliff Kingsbury's first game. And I'm watching it. I'm like, damn, who is this kid, man? This kid can ball. He was running around, making plays, doing basically what he's still doing now. And it's funny just to think back to that game and now where he is now, a potential Heisman candidate. What a fantastic career he's had, Baker Mayfield. Fun guy to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you look at last year, 71% completion percentage, just 40 touchdowns. I mean, really, really impressive. And, this year, this is going to be a huge game for Heisman Trophy. This will add a lot if he can go in here and play well. So, yeah, I'm going to be on them. I'm actually going to make this happen now. I'm going to look to grab the 7.5 points now. I think if you like Oak State, you might want to do that. This is a really good number. You're getting it above a touchdown. You get a touchdown to play with here. And in a game that could go to overtime, could be a late score, when you're getting 7.5 points, I mean, really huge.
That's beautiful.
Yep. So for me, I'm going to agree with you, Ryan, and go with the dog here at Oklahoma. My fourth game, Ryan, I'm going to go with where am I going to go here? I'm going to go with this game. I'm going to go with Army minus 16.5 against Buffalo. If we saw anything in the first game, and look, I was impressed with Buffalo. They played pretty well against Minnesota. The problem that you have is Minnesota is got a new coach. They have a new culture in Golden Gopher country. They have a new quarterback, Connor Rhoda. Leidner's gone. They don't have really any opportunity to throw the football down the field. They can't do that. They're just kind of a boring team right now, and they're going to play a lot of unders this year. But I look at Army. They're in revenge here. They went to Buffalo last year and lost to the Bears. Buffalo, or not the Bulls. Bulls and Bears, sorry. The Bulls, sorry. Tyree Jackson, a late touchdown there, and he was able to get the job done against them 23-20. I think they're going to plan revenge. And when you have a military school, Ryan, playing in revenge, they don't forget things like that. Army brings back most of their offense from last year. Ahmad Bradshaw, their tailbacks, a lot of their defensive side of the football. And you look at what they did in week one. I mean, how impressive was that? Didn't complete a pass in the game, Ryan, and won 64-6. I got to tell you, I think this one's pretty straightforward. I do think they get some revenge here. I'm willing to lay the number here. Army, when they get running and when they get going, they are tough to stop. I do think Buffalo, maybe it is a little bit of an overreaction because of the way they played in week one. At the end of the day, they still only scored 7 points in that football game and really couldn't do much in the offensive end. But hey, I think this will be kind of a lower scoring game. I don't think this is 64-6 like week one, but I do think it's like a 38-14 type of game. I think they're able to kind of win this one by 3 touchdowns or more and kind of take it to them after last year. The rushing attack, Ryan, should be on display here. Look for this one at like 38-17, 34-17, something like that. I think Army gets a little revenge here.
Yeah, look, the one thing about the triple option and Army and teams like that, look, we saw it last night with Georgia Tech. I mean, That option game, man. I mean, that really wears on you throughout the course of a game. I mean, even with a team like Tennessee, with the athletes that they have and the guys that they recruit and bring in year after year, I mean, those guys were struggling last night. I mean, for that game to be as high scoring as it was, I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. I didn't think it would be that high scoring. I don't think a lot of people did, even after like the first quarter. But look, you keep leaning on him, you keep leaning on him, you keep leaning on him, you keep the fullback dive, getting 3-4, then eventually it turns into 8 yards. I mean, look, and I think that's what you're going to see Saturday with Army. I think they're just going to keep pounding, pounding, pounding. Like you said, they didn't complete a pass. They didn't have to. The same thing perhaps in this game. Probably don't even need to complete a pass. Just keep pounding away on a team like Buffalo, who, look, probably was, I don't know, you're never happy after a loss, but to go to Minnesota and play the way they did, probably were a little happy. But yeah, I like Army in this game. I know 16.5. A lot of people see that and say, "Wow, that's a lot of points for a team." And with Army and then Buffalo coming to town, who they just battled a big Power Five team, within 10 points on the road. That's way too many points. I like where your head's at, Jeff. I would take Army as well here.
I do want to point out last year, and I actually remember this game because, Ryan, I remember the night this game went on. We actually went out for my sister's birthday, and I remember watching this game on my phone, and I'm thinking, like, come on, like, what the fuck? Like, and right. I remember that it was really raw and rainy up in Buffalo.
Yep, a lot of turnovers.
Yep. Yeah, kind of bad conditions. This one's at 12 o'clock Eastern up at West Point. Should be a cool atmosphere. These fans,
yep.
These kids, cadets up at Army have been really good. And
Jeff, that's one place you got to go to, man. You're like into the whole military scene.
I love it.
That you're infatuated with that. I was actually lucky enough to go there my senior year in high school with our football team, and I'll tell you what, man, West Point is a beautiful, beautiful place. It's located right on the river, up kind of in the mountains. It's an awesome, awesome scene.
Yeah, I'm actually going to make it a point this year to try to get down to the Army-Navy game down at Annapolis. I know they used to have it in Philly, which I kind of miss out on, but yeah, I want to get up there. I'm a big fan of the Army and the Navy, and I obviously love what they do for the country, but I'm infatuated with them on the football field as well. And they have a great atmosphere up there. Should be nice weather, and you're in revenge here. And these kids, these cadets, they don't forget stuff like that. I just think this is a really good spot to kind of put them away. And look, I mean, Army had 513 yards week one against Fordham. Really impressive stuff. And for anyone that wants to say, well, it was Fordham, Fordham's a top 15 FCS program. You beat them 64-6. So, yeah, impressive stuff there. I'll lay it with the midshipman here as my fourth pick. Ryan, do you have any other picks tonight?
That's it for me, and I'm going to go with the 3 Big Ten games. Those are the 3 that I'm zoning in on, and yeah, we're going to ride with those 3 games that we discussed there. For me,
all right, let me recap here, and then we'll go rapid fire, kind of down the line. Maybe go through 5 or 10 quickly. Sure. I'm going to go with Ohio plus 4.5 against Purdue. I'm going to go with over 63 Hawaii, UCLA. I'm going to go with over 66 Oak State and South Alabama. And I'm going to go also with Army minus 16.5. And I'm going to also agree with Ryan's pick with Oklahoma plus the 7.5. Ryan also likes Indiana minus 2.5 against the Virginia Cavaliers. And he also likes the Michigan Wolverines minus 34 in Ann Arbor against Cincinnati. And Ryan, we also had to point out in that Michigan game, it's their first home game up in Ann Arbor, so it should be wild and wacky. Ryan, let's go rapid fire here. I'm going to rapid fire and hit you with some games. Let's see if you have an opinion. This one was moved to Friday night. You got Memphis visiting Central Florida, over under 69. Central Florida laying 3. Central Florida with a really nice performance in week 1 against the Florida International Golden Panthers. Really did whatever they wanted offensively. I think we're going to see that all year, Ryan, with Scott Frost's team here. Mackenzie Milton is a kid that really can command that up-tempo, hydro-fast offense. They're going to go at warp speed. That's what they do. Memphis, same thing. They unfortunately had a little bit of a wet game against I'm trying to remember who they played. UL Monroe in week 1. If that's cool and calm weather, I think the big thing in this game, I think if you get Ryan a clean, dry field, no weather, this might be impending, so that you probably won't be any weather problems here. I think you got to go over the total in this game. I don't see any reason this game's not
Sure.
44-43 or something. I think 69 is obviously high, but this one should go at warp speed like normal.
Yeah, for sure. As far as the side goes, too, I actually like Central Florida. I like what Scott Frost is doing there. Talk about just a roller coaster ride over the last handful of years for the Central Florida team. I mean, they had that fantastic run with Blake Bortles, and then not 2 years ago, as this team doesn't win a game, and then Scott Frost comes in here. They have some nice improvements last year, and then I watched a decent amount of their first game, Jeff, and that offense was really humming. I like what they're doing. Quarterback looked really, really sharp. So as far as the side goes, I would lean Central Florida, but I like the over as well. It should be a lot of points if the conditions are good.
Yeah, and I think the conditions will be good, and that's why they moved this game up. These teams didn't play last year, but if you know anything about Memphis, their quarterback Riley Ferguson really wasn't able to test himself over the week one game against UL Monroe due to the weather conditions. I think if you get good weather conditions here, you might want to look at that and take a shot with the over here. Let's go to another one here, Ryan. Let's take a look at where we want to go here. Where we want to go. Hello, hello. Let's go to Iowa. Iowa State, 327, 328. One of those little in-state matchups here, Ron. You got the Hawkeyes laying 2.5. Over-under is at 48. And I think this is going to be a sharp public split here, Ryan. I think a lot of the public will bet Iowa here and thinking that same old Iowa team, kind of big brother in this this border war here. Iowa State, if you don't know much about, Iowa State's gotten better and better under Matt Campbell. They've been able to kind of bring in a new quarterback, Jacob Park. They have a really good receiver in Alan Lazard.
Fantastic,
Yeah, and look, I don't want you to sleep week one on what they did. Northern Iowa is a very good FCS team. They're a top 10 team. They're going to be there towards the end, and you go and beat them by a pretty nice margin, 18-point margin. They're not going to be scared to play Iowa. This is a game where I think they might finally catch the Hawkeyes. You look at the last couple of years, 42-3 last year and 31-17 the year before. I know last year I actually had Iowa in this game. They crushed the Cyclones. This is a new Cyclone team, Ryan. Don't be surprised if they win this one outright. It might be the season for them to catch them.
Yeah, that's the side I'm on. I like Iowa State here. I like where your head's at. I think that's where the sharp side will be. Look, this isn't the Iowa team that we've seen the last couple of years with C.J. Beathard and that whole crew. A team that went to the Big Ten title game just only 2 short years ago. And Iowa State. Look, I like Matt Campbell. I like what he did at Toledo. I like what he's doing right now at Iowa State. He's getting that team, trending in the right direction. And I think at home, this is a game every year they circle. And now especially Iowa's starting to come back down to earth here. Look, they had a nice win last week against Wyoming, but Wyoming was really banged up. They started 2 freshmen on the offensive line. So just not an ideal situation for Wyoming there. So, I like Iowa State, man. Absolutely.
And really the goal, if you're in the Big 12 and you're a team like Iowa State, you really got to do what you can to win games early. I mean, you don't exactly have an easy schedule. You got to go to Akron, which you should win, but then you get Texas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, TCU, Western. I mean, we all know that schedule's tough. You got to try to do what you can. Are they going to make a bowl this year? It's going to be tough sledding, but I think they're going to try to do whatever they can to get close. So for me, I would look with the Cyclones in this one. I think you're going to see sharps on Iowa State. The public will be on Iowa here. TCU, Arkansas, Ryan. TCU didn't have much of a problem in week one. They beat Jackson State 64-0. I think that was one of the highest scoring. I think it was the biggest deficit as far as in week one. They absolutely crushed the Tigers in that game. I believe they're the Tigers. What's Jackson State's max at, Ryan? Do you know?
Yeah, they're the Jaguars, I think.
No, it's South Alabama. I got
Jackson State.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. They're a SWAC football team.
Yeah, I cannot remember. Sorry, don't spend much time with the SWAC.
I got to look because I'm going to be going crazy if I don't know it. Their mascot is the Tigers. I was right. All right.
So does the Tigers. I knew it was some sort
Um,
of
yeah,
feline animal.
some kind of mammal. But this is an interesting game because Arkansas had a cream puff as well. They crushed Florida A&M. I did have them, Florida A&M in that game, Ryan. I got the Rattlers at a nice
Yes.
plus 47 underdog. They ended up losing by 42, so they stayed within the number. You look at last year in this game, fun game, 41-38. I like I like Allen. I really like him as a quarterback, and from what I understand, one of my colleagues in this racket that we're in here just contacted me before the show. He's an Arkansas fan. He told me that a couple corners are going to be out this week for the Razorbacks, which isn't good because Kenny Hill did really whatever he wanted week one. It's hard to say, though, just because of who they were playing. I mean, Ryan, I think you, me, and 9 other people could go out and score against Jackson State. You would agree with that, right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
But, Kavonte Turpin is a guy that I think will cause some problems here. Kyle Hicks, a good running back. I don't think this TCU team will have any trouble scoring the football. I also look at Arkansas and say, I don't think they will either. I mean, Raleigh Williams, one of their running backs, we mentioned Allen. But I'm going to go with TCU in this game. I think they're better this year. I think they're a team that's going to do some good things in the Big 12. I don't know how many games they're going to win. I don't know if they'll be a 9 or 10 win team, but I do think they're going to win games like this against Arkansas. It concerns me that they have some corners out. I don't think that's good for this team coming into this game. And look, I mean, at the end of the day, I know, Ryan, you don't care much about revenge and that kind of thing, but I do think TCU will want to avenge that game. It was a tough loss. TCU really had a trouble in that game. I mean, they had no points at halftime, really kind of turned it up in the second half. I like TCU to get the job done here. I'm going to actually lay the 3 here. I like them in this game.
Yeah, I don't have much of an opinion on this game, Jeff. This is definitely a toss up, I think, in every sense of the word. If your inside scoop there is correct, and they're going to be down some quarterbacks, that's obviously a great piece of information that kind of tips the scales perhaps a little bit in TCU's direction in the way Kenny Trill Hill has been playing to start the season. Yeah, you have to like that and hope that continues. So slightly into TCU, but yeah, this is a coin flip game that I'm not real high on.
And to anyone that does know me or they don't know me, I do want to mention I do play a lot of added games. There also isn't not a lot. There's no lines out for those games just yet. So, a lot of my games will be included on that level of football. But, yeah, I do kind of like that game. Let's go 2 more here, and then we'll look to wrap it up here, Ryan. We're about 45 minutes in.
Sure.
Another game that I'm a little intrigued by is, and I got to tell you, I just think it's too many points here. I kind of like Marshall against NC State, game number 367, 368. I had NC State in week 1. It was a premium play for me, and I thought, I really liked what I saw out of NC State kind of going into last season, the end of last season. Really, I kind of thought this year would kind of be a good season for them. They came in with a good quarterback in Ryan Finley and a game changer, on the offensive side of the football. The receiver they have, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank here, Ryan.
I am as well. I know exactly who you're talking about.
There's so many names that you deal with. It's just like you try to remember everyone, and it's just like you can't ever do it. I'm going to get his name in a minute here. Jalen Samuels. Out on the outside, a big play receiver. Did lose Matt Days last year, but they still have a pretty good running attack, and their defensive line's really good. I mean, up front, the problem, though, for them is their pass defense. I mean, Jake Bentley absolutely destroyed them last week. I mean, they couldn't get any stops. And I saw Marshall, a team in Marshall, who had an impressive win week 1, beating Miami of Ohio, a game in which a lot of sharps liked the Redhawks in that game. There was a $50,000 bet made at CG out in Vegas on the Ohio Redhawks. And Marshall said, I don't give a flying fuck. And they went in and got the job done. I think this is too many points. I don't trust NC State in the pass defense. I think they will be able to score some points in this game. Over might be worth a look, but I think 24 is too many points. I think this is like a 42, 27 type of game. I think Marshall hangs within the number. I think Marshall's going to be a really improved football team. They have a capable quarterback in Litton. They have a kid named Ryan Yurchek, a tight end that is going to cause problems for the defense there. I just don't trust them to lay this kind of number. Marshall will have the back door wide open. I'm going to take a shot with them plus the 24. Any opinion, Ryan?
Yeah, if you remember back when we did our ACC preview, NC State was a team that we actually both thought would be a surprise and take a step forward this year. And then as the offseason continued to go on, I kept seeing more and more outlets talk about NC State and talk about how they could be a surprise team. And that worried me because if NC State would have just not had the publicity, not had all these publications talk about how they could be a surprise team, okay, then perhaps they go in that direction. But I think they're reading all these reports, they're listening to all these quote unquote experts say how they could surprise some teams this year. And I think they bought into that a little too much. And then they go to South Carolina, and Will Muschamp and crew just opens up a can of whoop ass on them. So we're going to find a lot about NC State this year. You come back home, awful loss, which is a spot I usually like to back teams in here, but I'm not so sure what you're going to get with NC State. So to me, that's a lot of points. You're right. And if a team like Marshall, that you're right, Jeff, did have a very nice win against Miami of Ohio, I think it's too many points. If gun to my head, I probably won't be betting this game, but gun to my head, I probably would take Marshall here. I just think that's too many points for an unknown NC State squad.
Yeah, and I think you have a team in Marshall who has kind of got a hitch in their step here. They didn't play well last year. They're 3-9. Doc Holliday, that's something that you don't normally see from this group. Yeah, I mean, impressive stuff. Miami of Ohio is a really good team. They're going to be right there in the MAC this year. To go in and get a win there, I thought was really impressive. Ryan, this is one I wanted to discuss. We're seeing some amazing movement here in this line in game number 373, 374, and you look at what happened in week one, you can understand why. I mean, let's look at this for 1 second. Yesterday at 2:10 p.m., this total opened 62 around there. It's been bet up to 74.5 in literally less than 2 hours. The value, look, if you got 62, you're the real fucking MVP. And if you did, send me a ticket. I'd like to see that. That's really impressive stuff. And look, I don't know if anyone saw, but if you would say to me, hey, 2 years ago, if you would have said to me, hey, you're going to see a 74.5 point total between Missouri and South Carolina, I would have told you you're fucking crazy. These two teams were built to just run the football, play defense. Remember Drew Lock, Donnie, Ryan?
Yeah, oh my God.
Matty Malk. Guys like that.
Oh.
You look at South Carolina with some of the guys, Stephen, what's his name? Connor Shaw and Stephen. I forget the kid's name. Steven, I forget his last name.
I mean, back when they had like Marcus Lattimore, I mean, they're very, very reliant on running the football and winning with defense. I mean, and that's what you expected with Muschamp coming in here. And that's kind of what you saw historically over the last handful of years with Missouri was they struggled to score, but they also played pretty good defense. And then all of a sudden, boom, this year, you see these two just barn burners to start the year. I mean, let me ask you, are those two just kind of dropping the bucket games, or do they get back to smash mouth low scoring football?
I don't think Missouri, they're not built like that anymore. Their defense is bad.
No, agreed.
They don't Barry Odom. I mean, he might be a guy on his way out as well. I mean, they just can't get it right at Missouri. You look at week one. I mean, you give up 43 points to the Missouri State Bears. I mean, what?
I know. That's crazy.
72-43 was the final, and that wasn't a basketball score. That was actually a real score in football. This game at half was
what about the half score? What was the half score? I think
it was like 80 points combined by half.
It was.
Amazing stuff. And like I said, South Carolina did really whatever they wanted against NC State. 415 passing yards NC State gave up. Really just couldn't stop anyone. I think these teams go back and forth. Why not just take the over here? I mean, I just think both these teams have really gotten away from what they normally do, and they've kind of just thrown everything out. And you look at the number, Ryan, opened 72, actually 62.
62.
62 was a really early number, but overall, this one has just gotten bet up and bet up and bet up. How high would it go? Nobody knows. But I would go with I would look at maybe at the over here. I don't know if I'll do it, but
Yeah,
I'll
you,
take a shot.
you definitely have to kind of look, and this is a situation where, and I advise people to do this a lot, and some people will just go on, whatever outlet you use, Scores and Odds or Vegas Insider, whatever site you like to look up your
SBRodds.com.
SBRodds.com. Sorry, yes, absolutely. Whatever your platform is, you know, and look at trends. Look, I like trends as much as the next person, but a situation like this where you see, oh, 5 of the last 6 meetings have gone under,
Kind of throw
and
those
blah
trends
blah
out.
blah. Yeah, you got to throw them out. You have to do your research, like Jeff said. I think Jeff worded it perfectly. These teams, they're they're not who they used to be. I mean, they've kind of gone in complete opposite directions. And I know Muschamp probably wants things not to go that direction. He wants to play more defense, but with Missouri, they're the complete opposite. I mean, like you said, 72-43, giving up 43 points to Missouri State is terrible. I mean, that's awful. So yeah, I think this is kind of one of the games you just bet the over and you don't even look at it until the game's over. One of them games.
Yeah, one other one that I wanted to point out, Ryan, and this is really going obscure, but I do want to discuss it because I don't know that I understand it.
Okay.
Game number, and you're going to have to. It's not going to be on your odds page. You're going to have to, just kind of go with it here.
Sure.
You get Eastern Washington hosting North Dakota State. This is an FCS game. I actually bet Texas Tech last week -8.5 against the Eagles, and they won 56-10. For anyone that doesn't know, Eastern Washington is a team that many believe every year really vaunted offense. Their offensive coordinator's gone, and they got a new coach. And it was pretty evident in week one they had some trouble. I mean, Texas Tech's not exactly a team that's a ravagingly good defensive side. You only had 10 points against them. North Dakota State is the best team in the FCS, and they're a team that would probably beat certain Division I teams. They do it all the time. They're the best team, and they're only laying 7.5 here. I think a lot of people are buying in a little too much to Eastern Washington, just hearing that they're going to score a ton of points, and Vernon Adams is going to walk through the door and guide this team on the red turf to a big win against North Dakota State. I just don't see it. I think this number is way too low. I think the Bison roll Eastern Washington in this game. Eastern Washington's a team that is not very good, and they're going to struggle going forward without a couple leaders there in that football team. Ryan, do you know much about those teams?
One thing I know is Eastern Washington, like you said, is terrible defensively. Give up 626 yards last week to Texas Tech. Look, North Dakota State. Look, everyone knows about North Dakota State at this point with the Bison. They just keep humming along. Whoever they throw in there, I mean, they're the class out there nowadays. So that's the direction I would look here. I mean, with as poor as Eastern Washington is, you got to look the Bison way.
Yeah, and again, I mean, Bo Baldwin, their offensive coordinator, is gone. Cooper Kupp, their high-level receiver, he's gone. You look at last year, these two teams played 50-44. It was kind of a fun game, but they didn't end up losing that game by 6. I think you have a different football team here, and I think North Dakota State's really poised to kind of do whatever they want in FCS this year. Look for Lance Dunn and North Dakota State to get the job done here. Chris Kleiman and company, they have a good football team there up in Bismarck or wherever this is.
There you go.
The North Dakota Bison.
North Dakota.
That one will be one that you might want to take a look at. I know Five Dimes offers those odds under college football extra, so take a look. Other than that, Ryan, I think we're good to go. Any last words before we sign off for the evening here?
No, not really. Just keep keep abreast to kind of what we're doing here. We'll have another show next week, and this will be continuing all throughout college football. Interact with us on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter if you don't follow me already at DIADIA18. Interact with me. It's always a good time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to another good college football weekend. A lot of fun games this weekend, undercard and games of notoriety. So
Yeah, enjoy your time out in Ann Arbor, Ryan. Have a
appreciate it.
sandwich for me at that deli.
I will. I will. Yeah,
Um,
we'll probably go back there. See, you're classic. I know you didn't forget about that sandwich. That looked good though, right?
Yeah, as you know, I like to imbibe in a couple of good sandwiches once in a while.
That's right.
So make sure you have one. By the way,
For sure.
we'll do this again next week, same time, 9 o'clock Eastern. We obviously didn't record it live tonight, but we'll probably take a shot with it next week live. I don't know how many people will be able to tune in. Hopefully, we can kind of get the channel going here. And, every day, if you want more college football, you want any other sports, head on over to SBR Picks on Twitter, sbrpicks.com. Great info over there as far as articles, videos. You can catch me every day at 12:30 Eastern on SBR Sports Picks on Twitter and on YouTube. Take a look at what we're doing. A lot of subscribers, really kind of have a good football lineup, and this gives Ryan and I a little bit of an option to kind of discuss our own games and have some fun. So we'll be back next week, 9 o'clock Tuesday evening. Everyone have a great night. Enjoy week 2 in college football.